Hello and welcome to your GG Replay for Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. GG Replay is, of course, a Monday, Wednesday, Friday podcast where we break down the latest in gaming news, hosted by us, the Goodnight Groofs, a place for games and a place for fun.
Whoa.
We're workshopping the slogan. I don't know if that one works, but we'll see how it goes. I'm Paul. I'm joined, as always, by Matt. How are you doing today on this fine Wednesday hump day? We're making it through the week on these dark days of the first week of daylight savings.
I'm doing all right. I feel like the first 2 days, the week was going by really quickly. Today felt really long for me. I don't know why, but I'm very happy that we're now over that hump and the weekend is on the horizon. You can see it now. You're over the hill and you can actually see the weekend in the distance, not the musical artist, but the end of the calendar 7-day period, and it's right there. It's right there, Paul.
I can see the weekend on the Forza Horizon 5.
Oh.
Very excited for that. So, all right. Well, let's get right into the show because we have a whopper and we have a lot of stuff to talk about. First off, just a reminder, if you have come across or have any necessary corrections or constructive criticisms in today's episode, send them to ggreplayshow@gmail.com or head down to our YouTube comments so we can address them in the next episode. Matt, the review is in, just one review today, and that is for Blue Reflection Second Light. It got an 80 on OpenCritic, and that is out right now. This game has actually been out for a few days, I think, but it's one of those games where we didn't have enough reviews at first, and then now the threshold hit on OpenCritic, so we can talk about it a little bit more now that we have a better picture of what we have. Matt, do you want to run this down a little bit? Honestly, to me, this just kind of looks like another JRPG for me. I really don't have much to say.
Yeah, it does. Honestly, though, I like the animation in it. But I will say, I've always known that JRPGs are a dime a dozen, but doing this show, GG Replay, is truly illustrating that for me. Since we cover all these games that get reviews every 3 days a week. And there are a ton of JRPGs that we don't even talk about because they just don't hit 8 reviews on OpenCritic or don't hit it within a reasonable amount of time. Like it's crazy how many JRPGs there are out there. If you're a fan of that genre, you have so many options all the time.
You're so spoiled. It's amazing. I noticed that, not talking about this game, just talking about that phenomenon, but I saw the game Cupid's Parasite came out for the Switch at the end of October 29th, I think, and it kept not having enough reviews, and I was just kind of double checking it, and now it finally hit the threshold of 8 reviews, but I'm like, what are we even going to say? Like, unless it's coming out like this week, it's not for us to talk about, really.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I saw that too. I saw that it reached the threshold today, and I was going into the show notes, and if you had it, I was going to message you and just say like, no, I'm not doing this one.
I'm not talking about it. That's so funny. I actually thought you might be like, you know what? Nah. So it's funny that we both thought that. All right, let's get into some stories today because there were some interesting ones. First off, in a surprise, rather, to no one, Steam Deck is going to be delayed by 2 months to February 2022. Listen, makes sense. So here's a quote from Valve here. The launch of the Steam Deck will be delayed by 2 months. We're sorry about this. We did our best to work around the global supply chain issues, but due to material shortages, components aren't reaching our manufacturing facilities in time for us to meet our initial launch dates. So, I mean, right off the bat, Mike called this on the last Game Groofs episode and said, listen, like, it's coming out in December. We definitely have heard marketing stuff, but we haven't really heard, like, the ramp up, like, the big, it's coming to your hands in a while now. So, probably the right move, I think. I certainly don't think it was going to be like a holiday thing. Yeah, I mean, well, obviously it's the only move they could do, but I mean, also just, it makes sense. I think it's going to actually kind of work better for them. I don't think it was ever going to be a holiday thing. The only people who are going to get it December were going to be people who pre-ordered anyway. So It was kind of silly to even have it come out in holiday time when like there's a lot of other stuff happening. I think it'll be cool to see that come out early next year in the late winter, early spring. But yeah, obviously they had to with supply chain shortages. Matt, what do you think about all this?
Well, when you opened the story, you said something along the lines of this is to no one's surprise, really. And I will admit, this is to my surprise. I didn't expect this. Despite all the global supply chain issues, Valve said that probably wasn't going to be an issue for them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they said that. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure they said that. I've been running with that line for a while.
They did.
And on top of that, I wondered how you could actually delay hardware that's set to come out in a month. And I still wonder if December was just never actually even realistic to begin with. Because to me, like, yeah, software is, you can delay. It's much easier to delay, but hardware, like a month out, you should know if it's going to happen or not. And like even 2 months, 3 months.
The supply chain stuff's pretty crazy though. I mean, there's things where you think you're going to get the things you ordered, that you think that you're going to be able to, make these dates, and then I think things can be held up at the last second at this point. The supply chain globally is fucked.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there might be fair criticism to Valve, certainly, but I think also this is just kind of what's happening here. It's just unfortunate that it happened at a launch. They're newer to having such a grand scale of hardware, I think, here. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be critical, and I don't even, like, I don't care. I don't think anyone really cares about this delay. Like, I'm sure there are some people who reserved it who really wanted it for the holiday. I personally don't care. It's just weird to me that it's hardware being delayed when it was supposed to come out a month from now. That just, I don't know, like I can't think of a precedent for that before. Of course, we're having unprecedented supply chain issues, so that's obviously a huge factor, but it's just weird. The idea of seeing hardware delayed so soon to launch is just strange to me.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think it also benefits because I just saw an article, I think it was on Polygon or somewhere, where they went and asked like all the they looked at the top games on Steam and went and asked all those developers if they're going to be ready for the Steam Deck, if their game's going to be on the Steam Deck. And I would say easily over half basically wouldn't comment on it. A couple of them said for sure, mostly Rust and Arc, I think, are the ones that really come to mind. But there were a couple, but most of the ones, there was like, we're working on it, but we're trying to see. I think that was what Bungie said about Destiny 2 or something. I don't know. I think a lot of people are working on things, but I think more time is needed. I mean, I don't even know if like a lot of them say they're working on anti-cheat and hopefully going to make it for December. So I think February is just going to kind of work out a little bit better. I think more games will be ready.
I wonder if the ones that weren't commenting could have been because they had heard rumblings that it was going to happen anyway. So they didn't want to say like, well, we won't be ready by December, but we'll be ready by February.
Right.
I don't know. It's sucks that anything gets delayed, but this one is really understandable and it's really not that big of a deal.
I agree. All right, well, let's move on to something a little bit different. Unity has acquired Weta Digital for $1.6 billion. That is a big acquisition. Weta Digital, of course, was founded by Peter Jackson in 1993. It's a digital VFX studio that has worked on movies like Avatar, The Lord of the Rings, Planet of the Apes, The Jungle Book, and many more. Any sort of time you saw like crazy CG stuff, Gollum, big battles in Lord of the Rings, that was Weta, so that's a good idea to check that out. Also, some of those great apes, in Planet of the Apes, a lot of good stuff in there. Now we're not getting it's just the digital division, so it is worth mentioning. Some people thought it was like Weta Workshop and stuff, so it is a digital division. But obviously, it's a pretty big acquisition for that kind of money. And seeing that in Unity is awesome because Unity is such a cool, it's such a cool engine to use.
So this is interesting, because we've seen Unreal Engine replacing green screens in movies and TV recently. Specifically, The Mandalorian comes to mind, where they're on these stages where they're actually stages with backgrounds created by Unreal Engine, and they're actually filming a screen behind the actors. It's not a green screen. It's not replaced later on in post. It's actually being filmed in front of the screen. Like, look it up. Look some videos. Yeah. Look up some videos of this on YouTube because it's really cool. And anyway, it's very clear that Unity is going for a piece of the pie with this, because with Weta Digital, I mean, they've been in some of the biggest movies, and I don't know if they've really been in TV a lot, but they've been in some of the biggest movies that have come out, like the biggest blockbusters. So it's a big deal to get an acquisition like this. Almost over $1.5 billion. It's a lot of money. Like you said, they're not acquiring Weta Workshop, which to me makes sense. I mean, I don't know why Unity would really care if they have Weta Workshop. It's not really in line with what they're doing. But yeah, Weta Digital, very clear that their goal is to follow in the footsteps of what Unreal Engine has been doing as of late in movies and TV, and it's cool. This sort of technology in movies and television is really cool, and I'm happy to see this.
Really cool. Yeah, it's awesome if they're going to be using it kind of tech. It's really great because it just makes it so that actors can see what they're actually doing and where they
Yeah.
actually are now. It makes you so you can almost act in this like fantasy world, which is really rad. So
Do you
yeah,
remember
hopefully,
the memes about oh my god, the guy who played Gandalf, his name is escaping me all of a sudden.
Sir Ian McKellen.
Yes, Ian McKellen. There were pictures of him when he was doing things for The Hobbit, and it
Yep.
was all on green screen. Like unlike
Yep.
the first trilogy, there
Yeah.
was so much green screen
Peter
use,
Jackson just didn't have the time, and yeah,
and he
to
was
get it
just like
together.
depressed. He's like, "This isn't
Yeah.
acting," you know?
Yeah, yeah. Everyone was depressed. Those Hobbit movies, because that was like I remember I watched them for the first time recently, and that was what Rachel was telling me. As a diehard Lord of the Rings fan, she was like, Guillermo del Toro was supposed to do him. They just threw him to Peter Jackson, and he did the best he could with what he had. And I was like, oh yeah, depressing. But yeah, you see all that like those Star Wars prequel stuff too. They just like they're acting against nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's so weird. Anyway, so cool to see it. Cool to see more companies getting in on it. Yeah, I feel like this is a big acquisition. It makes me think of like buying like Industrial Light and Magic or something like in the 80s
Hmm.
or something. You know, it's like just acquiring like this huge, influential VFX studio. So really, really cool stuff. All right. Now, we talked about Riot earlier this week. Well, we have plenty more to talk about Riot because they are just on a roll. And obviously, it's clearly a week that they've been waiting for a long time, and they've got a lot going on. So, first off, let's start off with a new game they're announcing. Yes, another new game from Riot. Well, this one is called Hex Tech Mayhem. It is, well, it's a rhythm running platformer kind of thing, which is cool and interesting. It definitely seems more of like a casual friendly. It definitely seems like it could have a high skill cap, but it's kind of more colorful and light. It's developed by Choice Provisions, so not developed by Riot internally, and it's coming soon. It's coming November 16th, next week, for the Switch and PC, which is kind of interesting thing there, Matt. Now I remember this came out. You actually were pretty interested in this. Seeing it more now and seeing how it works. I don't. Is this a game you would actually play, or are you just more interested in like the fact that Riot is diversifying into such interesting different genres?
I don't like rhythm platformers or rhythm
Yeah, same.
games really in general because I have no rhythm. So
Yep.
I'm not really interested in this, but I am interested in the way that Riot is expanding the Runeterra brand. We talked about this in the Discord, I think, yesterday when we heard about this. The fact that they're expanding the brand to more casual games, I think, is a really good idea because
Yep.
of course, League of Legends, you can casually jump in and play, and a lot of people have, but it's a competitive game. Teamfight Tactics, it's a competitive game. Legends of
TFT is.
Runeterra,
I will say, Teamfight Tactics is pretty basic. You just pick some dudes and plop them
but it's
down,
still
and
competitive. It's still competitive
yes, it is.
multiplayer.
It
And
is.
same with Legends of Runeterra. And there's a certain group of gamers who don't like engaging in multiplayer stuff. They just want to play single player stuff. And this is a way
Yep.
for them to jump into the world of Runeterra and learn more about it and learn more about those characters and those environments. And I like that. I also talked about in the Discord how I feel like a lot of companies you would look like they're milking their brand or like
Yeah.
their world that they've created. But for some reason, and I can't really put my finger on it, I'll have to think about it. This works for Runeterra. This expanding the brand and putting it into different genres just works, at least in my mind. I
Yeah.
just feel like there's so much untapped potential that they will eventually tap, but there's a lot out there that they can really do with this, and I'm excited for it.
I think there's something about them waiting 10 years to really do anything that's
True,
not League of Legends
true.
was smart because now there's this huge wealth of characters, there's this huge fan base for this game specifically, but not necessarily for the IP so much, but it's such a good IP and they've had time to build it for so long that I think they're confident enough now that it'll translate to other games and it can be milked a little bit, if you want to use that term. It can be, monetized more. And so I think it was smart to wait that long until they had something really there. Because I think sometimes milking an IP can feel like that because there isn't a lot in the IP to go for. And like, look at this game. This is like Ziggs and Heimerdinger. It's Ziggs mainly. It's one champion. that's really driving this story. And that's like, imagine you came up with like, it's like he's like a PlayStation character. He's like an old Crash Bandicoot or like a Spyro. Ziggs is such a funny character. His voice is really funny in the game. It seems to create this little 2D platformer, and yet that's one tiny piece of what Runeterra has to offer. So I think it's really cool that they've been able to do that, because it would start feeling like a little bit too much if it was smaller, I think. And if
Similarly,
they done it sooner.
similarly, I think we'll see this happen with Fortnite in the future as well. I think it's almost like the League of Legends approach, where they have the one product that does really well. They kind of sit on that and let that grow, and then eventually we're gonna have like single player Fortnite games, or like a Fortnite tower defense game or something like that. Like I can just totally see Fortnite doing the same thing as well. But there's something about Runeterra in that world that's really interesting, and I if you're really interested in that world, I highly recommend getting into Legends of Runeterra, the card game, if you like card games, because that's a really good way to learn more about it.
It is. There's more lore in that than there is any other game from Runeterra. Easily, the character interactions and the stuff that happens in that game, and the card descriptions, and then the art just feels more in the world than it does in other stuff. I mean, when you play League, you're all those characters are kind of summoned to this place where they don't normally reside, so it doesn't feel like the lore so much. It's more like the lore is background to where they now are in this big battle. So this is kind of cool in Runeterra. I will say too, I think I'm not trying to poo-poo your idea there, but with the Fortnite thing, I think that's something that's kind of interesting about Riot, is because they own all the IP. Fortnite has done a disservice to themselves
That's
here
true.
by doing so many cross promotions, and we're going to talk about that later in the show. But it's kind of it's the point now where, yeah, they have their original IP characters, but they don't spend as much time on them because they're just frankly not as cool as fucking Wolverine or something, and people want that, and they know they do, so they're doing more of it. But there's a lot of people, Fortnite fans, if you go to the Fortnite subreddit and stuff like that, people will say, listen, I wanted more original characters. I hate that this is a themed pack. People hated the Marvel pack, like diehard
Right.
Fortnite people, because they wanted more original characters. And I think eventually when you go to license different games, yeah, you're gonna have Jonesy and you're gonna have other characters, but a lot of people like me won't really know who those people are. And I've played a lot of Fortnite. So I don't know. I think if every character is forced to be part of your IP, every character is someone, you'll just naturally, by osmosis, pick up some of their characterization. But in our Fortnite, you could totally almost ignore their original characters. So yeah,
That is the good thing about League of Legends. Like even though a lot of their characters are new different versions of like old Dota characters, and I
yeah,
mean like Warcraft 3 Dota,
yep.
they at least eventually expanded them out and created their own
Yep.
story.
And you see that people talking about that a lot now. You look back at old lore from League of Legends, they've retconned all the lore from the original game like 12 years ago. I mean, when it first came out, I mean, the lore was totally different. It was fluffy. They couldn't figure it. They retconned it a couple times to get to the point where they really feel comfortable with the approach and how it comes off, and the tone. And so that that's taken them a long time, and that's why I think it's good that they've waited. A couple more League of Legends things or Riot things just to talk about. First off, Wild Rift, the mobile MOBA that they have there. We now have a new event called, I think it's called Target Practice or something. And there's a new event. You can play the event to unlock Caitlyn and Jace. They're now in the game, because obviously there's a smaller roster in the mobile version, but Caitlyn and Jace are now going to be there, which is cool. Or you can just buy them with real money or in-game points. So kind of cool. Just always good to add out the roster. And of course, Caitlyn and Jace are being added because they are part of the Arcane show on Netflix, as well as
Oh,
Vi and
okay.
Jinx. They're kind of the other two big characters, I think we'd say, that are going to start they have kind of side plots we're going to start seeing in that show this weekend, which is cool. And that is because Arcane is now #1 on Netflix. It doesn't mean a lot to be #1 on Netflix, a little bit, just because, when one big thing comes out, that's kind of the thing for a while. But it's pretty cool to see Arcane become the thing, to become the next Squid Game, or whatever. It's cool to see Arcane become the next kind of event show that everyone's really, really interested in watching, because it's fucking League of Legends. It's a fucking League of Legends cartoon. I mean, that's like, making light of it. It's an animated series, but it's cool. And yeah, it's awesome to see. And just speaking again, this is like a couple characters from the Runeterra universe in like one town. And this is the show. It's not everything. It's not like League of Legends the show and they've like blown their whole thing on one thing. This is just a tiny corner of the universe. Riot has done this so right. Crazy.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited to start watching this show at some point. I have so much that I need to watch.
Oh yeah.
I'm watching. House of Cards right now. Tiger King is about to come out. Narcos Mexico season 3 just came out, and I need to watch that. Like Netflix, cool your jets, okay? Cool your jets. I got a lot to watch.
All right, well, let's move on to something coming out tomorrow that's, some people are excited for. GTA, the Trilogy Definitive Edition. Before it came out, we didn't really know exactly what gameplay was looking like. Rockstar's been pretty cagey about actually showing anything but like, cinematics and stuff. Well, here we go. A bunch of gameplay videos leaked online today. So we did get gifts and things from Rockstar, weirdly, maybe to try to distract from the fact that like full walkthroughs of the game are being posted. I didn't like go in and look at exactly how people are playing and whatever. The point is, it's happening. We can see, I've watched like I skimmed like a full like 30-minute walkthrough or hour walkthrough, something like that of San Andreas. I looked at a little bit of Vice City, a little bit of 3. I'll give my hot take right away. I think 3 and Vice City look like shit. And I think San Andreas looks pretty good. I'm sure, listen, this isn't for me in the sense that I never really played these younger. I played Vice City and San Andreas, but mostly like cheats to fuck around and spawn a tank. And it's certainly what you could do now too. But like, it's not like these characters or the story mean a lot to me. I never went back and played them because they were so dated. I don't think this is going to change that for me. I know they're trying to, show off that the gunplay is better or whatever, but they kind of hid that stuff, and I think it's because it does still look pretty floaty. Everything still looks a little bit janky. Some of the graphics look downright pretty bad in some of the older ones. I mean, what are you gonna do? But I think they really tried to like ride this line of keeping it stylized, and I think they should have just like up-rested even crazier. But yeah, San Andreas looks borderline modern. The character designs are cool. The models look good. The backgrounds look good. The gunplay looks better. I would play San Andreas, but I'm not interested in the rest.
I actually haven't seen the footage from San Andreas. I only saw footage from 3.
Yeah.
And what I did see, I can say I'm not interested.
No.
It's the old games, at least 3, with a new coat of paint. But that's like if I'm saying I'm going to do a remodel for part of my house, but I only actually do the paint. You know what I mean? Like there isn't.
And maybe you like change a couple, you like put a different door on, or like maybe
Sure.
change some drawers in the kitchen so they pull out a little bit better, but it's still the same cabinets. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
but the same cabinets, the walls are still the same, the layout's
Yeah.
still the same. I understand like some mechanics were changed in these and they were made a little bit more modern, but it's still like just doesn't look that great. I don't know. I
I
understand
watched them like shooting cops in 3, I think, and it just like it didn't register anything when it shot them, and it looked like you were shooting and hitting them, but they weren't going down, and weird. Like it just looked like it wasn't connecting in this modern way.
Yeah, I mean, if you have nostalgia for these games, then it's probably a little bit different for you. I played a lot of 3. I didn't really play much of Vice City, and I played a little bit of San Andreas, but I played mostly 3 out of those 3 games.
Exact opposite of me, which is so funny. I've never set foot in 3.
And I really liked it at the time, but like I'm okay moving on. For me, it's just a weird choice of a video game to remaster and not do a full like new engine type of remake. It's a weird pick for me because I feel like these games that you remaster are usually these more cartoony type things. They're not like these realistic story based games. It's just weird. I'd rather just replay GTA 5. Like when the PS5 version comes out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just not into it.
Yeah, well, what I'll say to you, Matt, and what I'll say to everyone out there who hasn't checked this stuff out yet, check out San Andreas footage. You might like it. It looks kind of like an uglier GTA 5, but it looks like it plays a bit more like GTA 5 and still has some kind of charm to it. So,
Okay.
might be worth checking out. I know it's on Xbox Game Pass day one, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, it's on PC Game Pass, which is kind of a bummer because that's the only one I actually wanted to play with San Andreas. But we're checking out that footage. It's the only one I think is worth it unless you're a nostalgia freak. Let's move on. Final big story of the day. More of a solemn one here, but Travis Scott's Out West emote is removed from the Fortnite item shop. Now, this is kind of interesting. This is done in response to the Astro World tour tragedy in Texas this last week that saw 8 people killed at a Travis Scott concert. There's a lot of conjecture. There's a lot to go on. We're not going to talk too much about it, but essentially, there's some pretty morbid kind of stuff there. He's still performing. The event was overcrowded. The venue was, I'm sure you've heard about it. So Epic's responded by removing this specific emote from the item shop. I guess this has some kind of correlation to the Astro World and to the event. Yeah, so far it's unclear whether content will be removed or restricted any more than this. I think it's kind of strange. So I mean, it's just like strange. It seems like a weird half measure. Like they still want to sell
Yeah.
it. Like you can still get Travis Scott stuff. You just can't get this emote. You can still use this emote in game. You just can't buy it new to like be a troll or something. But I mean, there's like plenty of shit you can do to be a troll still, or still give money to the Travis Scott thing. Kind of a weird half measure. I don't see what this. I kind of looked online. I couldn't really see any good reason why this like specific significance of just taking this out really meant this weird move.
Yeah, I don't know. This doesn't make any sense to me. Why
No,
one emote?
right.
That's so weird. Now,
There's a full skin in the game. Like,
right. Now I will say this, doesn't Fortnite have like a rotating item shop? Can you always go in and buy the same stuff? I didn't think you could. Has that changed?
so I mean, there's some stuff that stays, and there's some stuff that rotates in. I guess for the tour, maybe it's been in the shop.
Oh,
Some
okay.
stuff stays for the season or stays during it. It could be in there for a few days. Maybe that was the case.
Okay, I
I
gotcha.
haven't opened it up recently, but I assume it was obviously in there in some way or another. But
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, like when they do their partnerships with made up characters, you're not very likely to run into issues, but when you put actual human beings as characters in your game, eventually you're going, like if you keep doing that, eventually you're going to run into someone who has some sort of legal issues or does something controversial, and you're
sure,
going to have to deal with that. So I have to you have to think that Epic had some sort of plan for if something like this happened, but I
right.
don't know. It doesn't really seem like they do. I'm not really sure. Or
It's
if their
kind of a
plan is
weird
just
take.
don't do anything.
Right, it's kind of a weird take because they're almost like it's not like they went like, "Oh, we don't believe in canceling or something." It's like they took like a hard stance and
Right.
said no. But then on this flip side, they did kind of like again, I'm not saying there's a better or worse on this, but I'm just saying they did kind of cancel a thing, but then they left the rest. It's a weird half measure that I don't even know if I think they obviously intended it for it to be a half measure, but I see people online going like good on them, and it's like, did you read the rest? Like everything else is still there. You can even still do the emote. It's kind of a weird. It's like they wanted their name in the news for taking something out, but they didn't want to take too much out, so they just picked like the worst thing or something.
Yeah, it's
It's
amazing.
kind of
You have Blizzard taking slash spit out of the game, which doesn't your
yeah.
character doesn't even do anything. It's just a chat thing.
Yep.
And then you
Yep.
have Travis Scott just hanging out in Fortnite. I don't know what they're gonna do with this. If you end up removing all of his stuff, you're gonna have to refund everyone or like
Well, that's the thing, and I think that's key, right? If you're removing it, then just do a refund and call it a day, right? And I think that's fine.
yeah, that's a decision that they're gonna have to make, and that's not an easy decision. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. I
I
this isn't the end of this news. I'm sure there's gonna be
No,
more.
there's a lot coming out here, depending on whether or not he's at fault or how much he was complicit, how much the venue was. That's going to come out over the next few days. There's 18 lawsuits already this
Good
last week,
God.
based on this because like a 10-year-old kid died. Like
Oh
really
Jesus.
terrible. So anyway, we'll see. Travis Scott may or may not continue being in Fortnite, but for right now, you can no longer buy the Out West emote, and I would prefer if you maybe didn't use it in game. Kind of fucked up, folks. All right, all right. Someone's gonna find me on Fortnite and purposely do it to like be a
They're gonna
dick.
spam it.
They're gonna spam it. All right, couple quick hit stories here just at the end of the show. First up, Forza Horizon 5. We already said they had almost a million players or over a million players in their free to play or their early play weekend. Well, now it is officially the largest launch of any Xbox Game Studios title ever. There's over 5 million players so far, which is awesome. I'm sure there'll be more to come. Now, of course, we're talking about Game Pass, but this is they have other games. It's not like the first game that came out on Game Pass, so they are comparing this with other Game Pass numbers of people playing a game without having to pay full price for it. But even then, damn, that's high. Now, this isn't like unprecedented. Forza Horizon 4, I think previously had like 4.5 million people playing too. So this is like a thing that happens with Forza Horizon, but still great to just see that this is still a super, super popular game series. It's not going anywhere at all.
Yeah, it's doing well. It's well deserved. They have fully surpassed Gran Turismo and the amount of output that they have. I know that Forza Motorsport is the sim racer,
Yeah.
But there's just more going on the Xbox side as far as car racing games. So,
Yep.
they're working hard and they're putting out good products. So good on them.
Absolutely. Cool to see. Also, another cool thing that's also on Game Pass, another nice thing to check out. Deep Rock Galactic reaches 3 million units sold. So awesome. Love to see that. I never got around to playing Deep Rock Galactic, but I've had it installed on every device I've had for like years. And the excitement, like I really, really wanted to play it and like it. And I never had anyone who like wanted to sit down and play it with me. And I didn't want to play it alone. So but it looks like a total blast. Grats to that like indie dev who made that game. So awesome. I love seeing stories like that and just seeing something. This is kind of like flown under the radar. It's almost like a hidden gem a little bit. Like it's it's on your in your face a lot. It's sometimes in ads. It's on Game Pass, but I think a lot of people. It's not risen to the ranks of something that's very very popular that everyone knows about or talks about. So
I'm thinking it could make a good future Goodnight Groofs stream. Twitch.tv/Goodnight Groofs.
Hey, nice plug. And I totally agree. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So definitely, tune in for that maybe in the future. We played some Back for Blood, and I think this is gonna, give us a similar kind of vibe, but a little bit different, or a little similar kind of game, but different vibe. So that's kind of cool. Also, there was a time when Crunchyroll was actually giving away some Game Pass trials. Well, on the flip side now of that deal, 75-day free trial of Crunchyroll is now included with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate perks. So, if you have a Game Pass Ultimate subscription, not just PC or console, then you can get a bunch of perks in different games. And one of those perks is a 75-day free trial of Crunchyroll. Now, that may or may not be good for you. I saw a lot of people online saying, hey, I got it, and I wanted to finally watch some One Piece, not available in your region. I wanted to watch some this, not available in your region. So I think, Crunchyroll has hit or miss. I know a lot of people will do like illegally find anime and stuff because there's hard ways to get it to work. But you know what? 75 days, you can sit on there and figure out what is the best for you. I was gonna say I might get it just to mess around and see if there's any anime I'd watch that is available to me, but like I don't know, let's be honest, I can't get into it. I've tried so many times.
75 days, you'll be able to watch like 2% of Naruto in 75 days.
You can watch like, I don't know, a solid 0.5% of One Piece or something. It's like 1,000 episodes in or something crazy.
A lot of filler.
Oh,
a lot of filler.
Lot of filler. Lot of filler. All right, and final quick hit story of the day, Fate of Gundabad. The new expansion for Lord of the Rings Online launched today. Now, here's the thing. I know this game has gone through a lot of iterations, but what the fuck? I remember Lord of the Rings Online in 2006.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I think that's when it launched. I think it's 15 years old, still getting expansions. It's a massive world. It's got to be one of the largest video game worlds. I mean, it is insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I remember seeing like infographics of that and showing how much bigger that was than like Azeroth and so many other places. Like it's really big. Maybe I should like hop in.
I keep getting the itch, but I remember the last time I jumped in a few years ago, it just felt so dated. But I feel like over the last few years, I've been more open to just trying a new MMO, and like I don't care if it's dated. I'm still gonna find enjoyment out of it.
Sounds like there's still a solid player base if they're coming out with new expansions.
Yeah, they're not going to come out for expansions for no one, So
yeah,
there's a decent amount of people still playing this game. I think it has a pretty dedicated audience. Like a lot of people, like this is just their game. They come home from work and they just play Lord of the Rings Online still.
See, I like that. I like coming into a world I've never been in before, really. I mean, I played a little bit of Lord of the Rings Online betas and stuff, like, again, 15 years ago, probably. And I think I may have tried it again, like, 10 years ago. But the point is, I like coming into a world that's kind of already built, and there's so many wonderful landmarks and cozy spaces, which I think, Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth really, really give off. I think there's like player housing and stuff in those cities too, in those games too. So I think there's a lot going on that just seems cool. It makes me think of like all those dedicated Star Wars Galaxies people who, because that's like such a, that was such a famously dedicated game, and there were so many cool mechanics. And there's people now who still run on private servers for that game, and they have like such a huge community that's like really dedicated. I feel like Lord of the Rings Online might have a similar kind of vibe. So
yeah, so I'm definitely installing this after the show.
Yeah, me too. I think I'm gonna get into this.
Totally down now.
We've hyped each other up really hard here, so maybe we'll play some this week, and we'll see how we feel on that one.
Goodnight Groofs Kinship coming soon.
Goodnight, yeah, absolutely. Is that what they call them?
I think the guilds are called kinships. Yeah.
Yeah, and we definitely still have New World in our libraries on Steam.
And I still can't play because of bugs. So
I just don't want to play, but maybe one day. All right, perfect. Well, you know what? That is going to be it for most of the show today. But just a reminder before you head out of here, a couple little things. First off, we have a whole website, goodnightgroofs.com. Over there, we do have, this show. We also have our Game Grooves podcast, our blog, and links to all of our socials. Also, in those links is a link to our Patreon, patreon.com/goodnightgroofs, where we have a $1, $3, and $5 tier. And the $3 tier will get you early access to Game Grooves, our all-encompassing gaming podcast. Comes out on a Sunday normally, but you could be listening to it on a Friday cruising into the weekend. Also, if you're listening to this on a podcast app right now, if you want to quickly give us a 5-star rating or leave a nice little review, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, whatever is on that app. It means the world to us. Takes you about 10 seconds. And if there's any reviews on there, we'll read them out at the show because we love getting that engagement. Matt, do you have anything else to say before we head out of here for the day and play some Lord of the Rings online?
I'm looking to sell my ticket to the next Travis Scott concert, so if anyone is interested, hit us up.
So maybe I don't know, Epic might buy it. All right, that is going to be it for today's GG replay for Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. Make sure to come back on Friday where we're going to have another fantastic episode of the show. Until then, good night, Groofs.